Reflecting. Yeah, I got it, dude.
Holy.
Whoa,
Perfect.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
man.
whoa. Look at my damage, look at my damage.
Whoa! What the fuck?
Okay.
Yo.
Reflect.
Sadly, this reflect got fixed almost instantly. But there's still a way to do it though. Therefore, let's start off with all reflects in Halls of Infusion. First off, the orbs in the packs here. Go in with reflect up and you can reflect the full beam. The first boss spawns the same type of orbs. Here you can reflect them again. 4 damage without precasting. On the dwarf mini boss here, you can do a cheeky pull into insta reflect. And then you can also reflect an ability called Molten Seduction, but it's better to just taunt reflect again when reflect comes back up. And here on the dog boss, you can reflect Gulp. It's a deflect. If you reflect it, no one has to go in. It prevents him from going hangry. On the trash packs, you can taunt the Icecaller to reflect the Ice Shard. He doesn't melee very hard, so you can tank him a little bit. On the third boss, you can taunt reflect Frost Shock. So make sure you go into D stands or pop a defensive, because this ability has no cast time. It goes off instantly. And now finally, the reason why everyone clicked on this video, the last boss reflect. But before I can show it, we first need to understand how it works. Squall buffet is always tied to focus deluge. So if you get targeted by this, you get targeted by the deluge after. The first one, Squall buffet, can also be reflected, but it's only like 1 million, and Focus Deluge can be easily 3 million. You cannot taunt after Squall buffet and hope to reflect the Deluge only. You cannot taunt in between those. So if you want to reflect the Deluge, you have to taunt before the Squall, tank the Squall to the face, live it somehow, and then hold reflect for the Deluge. And because it's a tank ability, you also need to set up some timers, but that's something that I'll explain at the end of the video. Because last time I put it in front of the video and everyone clicked it off apparently, so that's fine. Hurts only a little bit. So first I'll show you the Squall reflect, the small reflect. You just taunt on the timer right here. It's 1 million, but remember, it's tied to the Deluge. So if you reflect the Squall, you will get hit by the Deluge right after. So I melted off. So I don't know how you would do this if you're not a Night Elf. I guess you can't. So that's like the safe reflect. The real big dick reflect is the Deluge. Problem is, you can die in like 5 different ways here. You need your defensive for it, so you don't have your defensive for the first big AoE that hit you right before. You can get meleeed, which then you will die. You can have not enough externals and defensives on you to live the Squall. And you can get knocked into an orb, because it knocks you back, right? So let's go over the whole thing step by step. First, the Tempest Fury. We need to live that without any defensive. So just D-stance. Right after this hit, you need to top yourself. Now I ask for all externals. Sack, Enrage Regen, D-stance. Taunt very last second to not get meleeed. I look behind me because I'm going to get knocked. I don't want to get knocked into an orb. Save reflect, press reflect now. And that's the reflect. And on this particular boss fight, I did 1 Squall reflect and 1 Deluge reflect. So we can see them side by comparison to see how much damage it does. The Squall 1.2 mil and Deluge 3.2 mil. Right, that was hold. For the next dungeon, let's take the portal to Uldaman and go to Uldaman. There are lots of small reflects in Uldaman. I'm not going to cover all the kicks though, we're just going to cover the relevant reflects. On the Crocodile, if the kick goes through, you can reflect 1 tick for damage. It's like thorns in PvP. And then on the Snake Boss, you can reflect the fucking bleed, which is crazy, right? You can reflect it for crazy damage. But he throws it out seemingly randomly though, so how do you do this? He will always cast it right on pull, about 5 seconds in, so you go in with reflect up on pull. Right. Yes, got it. Keys time, bro. But then after that, it gets sketchy. So how it seems to work is he has the Stomp and the Piercing Charge, which you can see on the Weakaura right here. And it seems that his Piercing Charge is last on his prio. So if he has the Stomp and the Shards off cooldown, he will always Stomp first and then throw out the Shards, which you can reflect. So the Weakaura is guiding, not telling. But pretty much all you need to know is that you press reflect after a Stomp. Double check if he has Piercing Shards up, if he's able to cast it, and he will cast it. On the next boss, you can reflect Searing Clap for damage. You can reflect twice per phase if you pre-press reflect 2 seconds before he casts Searing Clap. If you press it too late, it's not going to be up for the second Searing Clap. And then after the intermission, repeat the same thing. Oh, and by the way, you can leap over the beam here. Go try it. And on the last boss, you can reflect Time Sink, which kind of works the same way as on Emberon. You pre-press reflect 4 seconds in advance, and then you deflect the dot. On the clip right there, I actually pressed it a little bit too late, but you get the idea. Then we move on to Nelthrus. Not too much going on in this key. You can fully reflect the Magma conflagration on the Thaumaturge here. So if you reflect it, make sure your group does not stop the cast. Let him cast it himself and he does massive damage to himself. On this boss, you can reflect the Spear. You deal some damage to the boss and you take less damage yourself, but besides that, nothing happens. The Spear will still go through as it normally would. Okay, let's go to Brackenhide. In Brackenhide, you can reflect the Withering Discharge here, the dot. Okay, let's leave Brackenhide again. In Vortex, you can reflect the Rushing Wind. This is actually a massive reflect for like 2 million damage. The cast is like half a second though, so you need to be super fast. On the clip right here, I tried to reflect a bolt on the Smolly and then I accidentally reflected the big reflect. Ever since then I got a Weakaura for it though, which makes it really easy. And by the way, every single one of my Weakauras can be found for free on my Discord in the video description. Then on the big guy, the Minister, you can deflect his Lightning Lash, so you never have to go into the triangle. There is a way to reflect it for damage though, one tick, but like it's so stupid I'm not even gonna mention it. If you know, you know. And then on the pack that follows right after, you can mass reflect the orbs. It really doesn't do much damage though, it's like 50, 70, 100k. It can add up to like 500, 600k, but it's mainly there for defensive, I guess. On the last boss, you can reflect the circle if it goes on you. You can also reflect it if it's on someone else, if you walk into their circle. But you cannot do this too much, otherwise you won't have reflect for when it goes on you again. So you can only do this if it's the final shade lightning before the boss spawns a triangle. That way your reflect will be ready again. In Underrot, you can pull the first boss for an instant reflect. You can also taunt him during the fight as you want. And a really big reflect is the Wicked Embrace on the skeletons. I use a Weakaura for it to show the cooldown of it. So right before you cast it, you press reflect and hope it goes on you so you can reflect it back to him. It's like a couple million damage, like 2 million damage. And then in Freehold, not too much going on. You can taunt reflect the Horseman and reflect the Oiled Blade. He will usually cast it right after his kick ability, his cast. And then, as always, Baz for last, Neltharions Lair, probably the biggest reflect dungeon in this tier. On the second boss, you can taunt reflect Thunder. You just taunt right before the Thunder. And then, boom, motherfucker, 1.3 mil. The boss actually doesn't melee very hard, so like you can just go into D stance, take some melee to the face, and it's fine. Like I do it on 26 here, Tyra. The reflex in this key get better and better though. On the worm boss right after, you can reflect a Toxic Wretch for massive damage. Not much to say here, just press it before it goes out. And then the last boss is completely ridiculous. It's kind of the same as second boss, but it just hits harder even. You taunt the Molten Crash right after the landslide, and you reflect it for 1.6 million damage. But remember, you cannot walk out and taunt, right? Because you cannot move the boss, because the whole group will take damage. So here we go. Frontal, into taunt, reflect. Boom. 1.6. On the second one, you're not going to have reflect, obviously. And then on the third one, you need to pre-press reflect a little bit. So you can have it for the reflect after the wall, after the hiding phase. And then finally, I promised to help you guys set up the timers. You just go into /bigwigs, dungeon bosses, and then you go find whatever boss you want to see the tank ability for that you try to reflect. So for Lair, second boss, you go to the Legion. Neltharions Lair. Second boss, Thunder. Click the arrows and then untick this box. For Dragonflight, like Halls of Fusion, last boss, you want to focus the Deluge. But remember, Squall, that's what the Deluge is, right? So you need to see the Squall. So for Squall, again, untick this box. And just do that for whatever you want to see. As for Weakauras, these are on my Discord here in the Weakaura channel. You can all pick these all up for free. The ones I use the most are Spell Reflect Cast on You. This is the green bar. This is what calls out to reflect above my head. Mythic Plus, Spell CDs on nameplate. This is what I use a lot for like Underrot, third boss Uldaman. The link to my Discord will be in the video description. So just go and have a look, and like you can leave the Discord right after if you want. Right, and that's it for this tier. Thank you so much for watching. Any other questions you might have, you can ask me on my stream. I'm live almost daily. Anything about reflects, builds, rotation, what's better, Arms of Fury, you can ask me there. And I hope to see you guys next time.